Hello and welcome to IMHO. Today I'm speaking AI overviews with Jono Alderson. SEO is still trying to figure out just how much search behavior will change and how much this will impact organic search traffic. Search are evolving on a daily basis and SEOs are keenly watching just how much of their organic traffic is being nibbled away. Jono Alderson is an award-winning SEO consultant and he's worked with some of the top brands in the industry. In 2023, last year, he was named the SEO World Champion at SEOktobefest. And this year, he's hoping next week, to retain his title. Jono is the author of the Web Almanac and WordPress core contributor. Jono has high praise from all of his peers, and I would call him the SEO's SEO. So, wow, what an intro, Jono.
What an intro indeed. Thank you so much. So kind.
You are welcome. So in your humble opinion, what do you think about AI overviews and how do you think they're going to impact the industry and where is this all going?
Oh, great question. A huge question. I think AI overviews are a symptom of a bigger change, and it's worth looking further back to understand what the implications are. I think, and this is cliche, right? Everyone says this, but Google's objective was never to be a list of 10 blue links that the user then had to look at and decide about and click. And it was never their intention to be reliant on average businesses' content that is inherently biased and inherently limited and all of these other constraints. What they really wanted to be, and still want to be, and are working on becoming, is this Star Trek computer vision where they just understand what you want and they solve your problem. And this 20-year period we've had of typing a thing into an input box and getting a list of links we had to choose from was a temporary dysfunction on that journey. So now what we see is the very first chapter of where they really wanted to get to. And that has some really big changes, some really big impacts. Yeah, sure. The obvious ones are things like zero-click searches become much more prolific, where people type something in or they speak something in, Google solves their problem in situ, and they no longer need to go and click or visit your website and consume your content. And that has some huge impacts on the whole economic model of the web, not just of sites which rely on conversions, but also sites which rely on clicks for advertising, but also Google's own advertising ecosystem, which relies on visits to websites that run adverts. So this is all very, very messy. And everybody, including Google, is still trying to work out what it means as we go. But I think the big thing that everybody's overlooking is it changes the relationship, or it changes the whole marketing stack and the relationship between businesses and SEO and content, right? So all SEO at the moment, and until today, has been based on the idea that I can research a bunch of keywords and understand user intent and behavior, do some kind of grouping and prioritizing of those, write a bunch of articles that are nominally better than my competitors and anything else out there, get those discovered, crawled, indexed, and ranked by Google, get a few clicks, convert or monetize a subset of those, and scale that over time. And now suddenly we go, none of that model exists anymore, because a few things change. One is Google has enough content and understanding of topics that they're not reliant on your blog posts and articles and service pages to understand and disambiguate the queries. So I was looking at this recently for a talk. I looked at a whole bunch of dentist websites, very exciting. Every single one of them has a page that's like 8 tips for cosmetic dentistry or 6 ways to get wider teeth. And when you zoom out and look at how many dentists are there in the world, how many of those have websites, how many versions of that page are there on the internet, Google doesn't care. Google doesn't want or need them anymore. It did, now it doesn't, because it understands these topics and these concepts. So this whole engine that we've built of using content as a kind of way to bridge through to visitors and making money just falls apart because Google doesn't want or need that content anymore. Users don't want or need it either. Like Google's synthetic and AI generated results are generally going to be better because what we said earlier, they're going to be less opinionated. They're not going to be trying to sell you this particular brand services. They are going to draw from multiple sources. They're going to be more up to date. They're going to be objectively better. So this whole idea that we have that producing content for keywords in order to rank is what SEO should be doing, I don't think that's necessarily the case anymore. And there are some places like being topical, being fast, being newsworthy, adding truly new and unique value to the corpus is definitely a thing. But I think if all you're doing is making articles, which is what a lot of us have been doing for 20 odd years now, then there's an existential crisis at hand, because this is, yeah, again, this is the first chapter. It's only going to get harder to kind of brute force that legacy model when Google doesn't want or need you.
So, I mean, have you actually noticed in your niche, in the niches that you're working in, or with your clients, have you actually started to see any impact from AI overviews being included in SERPs?
Yeah, starting to see it. So most of my clients, I do a bunch of freelance consultancy, aren't in the US where it's really hitting, but the ones who are starting to see it more than the ones over here. Um, any kind of website where they were using those kinds of strategies and tactics, right? Anywhere where they went, we have a big old business with a big old website, and we want to rank for this big old list of keywords, and we want to outrank our competitors. So we're going to produce a bunch of content, write a bunch of articles, get a bunch of links, and then overnight, following like the various updates we've had in August and April, etc., their traffic has continued to decline, not even necessarily because they're doing anything wrong, not because they're not doing all the good stuff, not because they're not ticking all the EEAT boxes, like these brands are legitimate, authentic, trustworthy, they are doing good marketing and branding, but their content isn't needed anymore. Like so many of these articles and blog posts and pages and even service stuff, Google is doing a better job of just intercepting those needs and solving the problems of their users. Yeah, and I see this is only going to continue unless there's significant legal action to break up bits of Google. And even if there is, that's going to take a decade and be contested. So yeah, we're in for a rough ride. It's only going to get harder. Still not seeing a huge amount of it in Europe for obvious kind of generally legal reasons. I wonder if this will ever hit, say, Germany as hard as it will hit the US, but time will tell.
Yeah, you see, it's quite interesting because in a way, Google's almost cannibalizing itself. I mean, it's had
Yep,
its previous business model of
showing ads.
serving ads. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's starting to cannibalize that. And I always thought that, we would relatively be safe because Google was never going to threaten that because still it has to make money at the end of the day. But I'm now starting to hear, and I don't know if you agree with this in the industry, that Google well, I've actually experienced this with my clients. It seems like a lot of the SERPs are going much more e-commerce based and much more transactional. Is
Yes.
Google trying to reinvent itself as a marketplace?
Yeah, absolutely. So I definitely see this roadmap where Google is trying to become Amazon, right, or at least something equivalent, but sourced from the whole catalog of the web. Yeah, I've seen some really interesting angles into this that I don't know how much other people have looked into. I do a lot of work with schema.org, and have been involved in some of the discussions behind the scenes around what is it and where's it go and how's it governed. There's a really interesting trajectory there where the stuff that's happening in schema.org and the things that are getting pushed and the people who are involved are all in somehow related to Google Merchant Center, which is super interesting because that's the engine that's driving this transformation of the search results. This used to be a separate thing, right? There was Google Shopping and there was Google Organic, and now we get this blurred middle area, and all of that shopping stuff is GMC. And increasing all the stuff, all the rich result formats, all the schema support we see for things like returns policies and product groups. And as of yesterday, special offer stuff, all of this is being driven by the Merchant Center team wanting to be able to more reliably extract that kind of information from people's websites and use it to show rich result formats and product stuff and product comparison in the search results. So yeah, if you're trying to compete on e-commerce and you're competing on the bottom of the funnel and price and availability, I would expect to wake up next week and find that Google is now a cross-industry product comparison marketplace engine thing. And unless you are the cheapest or have the best reviews or are available now when no one else is, you're going to really, really struggle to compete. I think that continues to mean either you have to choose, right? Am I going to compete right at the bottom of the funnel on efficiencies, or am I going to build a brand and win hearts and minds and compete far higher up the funnel on earlier when people are researching the problem space rather than when they're trying to buy the thing? Yeah, I think this journey for the kind of productization of Google is also just at the beginning. It's going to get much more aggressive.
You said earlier about keywords, and you mentioned that obviously we're moving away from this. What do you think is going to replace that emphasis and focus on keywords?
I think understanding the problems that your audience have is going to be super important. There's a few specific words I've chosen there. I think problems, not needs or the products they want. Like, what are the things that, I don't know, if I buy a new TV today, what were the frustrations I had 6 months ago? What were the questions I wish I'd known the answer to? I don't really understand the difference between an LCD or an LED or like those kinds of things that I explore and research before I get into the buying cycle. Those are the points where we really need to understand what do people ask, what do they want, what do they need, because we can intercept those kinds of searches with useful resources and educational content, etc., that wins hearts and minds, builds brand preference and awareness, so that when people do get further down the funnel and we're forced to compete in this e-commerce-y, AI-generated race to the bottom, then at least we have that advantage. I think there's a lot to be said for conventional user research. Like, everyone except the digital and SEO ecosystem has spent 100 years or so going, you know what, we can run surveys and we can talk to humans and we can ask questions about thoughts and feelings. It doesn't have to be keywords with search metrics and impression shares and URLs, right? We can understand the pain points of our audience without having to build enormous spreadsheets and whittling it down to keywords. I think there's probably a middle ground. Things like alsoask.com has a great reputation for trying to scrape the people also ask section of the SERPs and trying to get back to that. What do people really want? What do they need? There's a nice tool called Keyword Insights.ai that does some clever topic clustering, so you can take a step back and look at what are the types of things people are searching rather than the specific keywords. So yeah, I think moving away from that idea that I want a big old Google Sheets or Excel spreadsheet of every single keyword with every single search volume with every single URL, I think that's a trap that keeps us in that myopic focus of like, I need to write an article, I need to rank better for this keyword, when actually the real winners will be the people who influence what people do and see and think when they search, which you have to zoom out for and understand human needs and concerns much more than keywords.
Oh, no, you've hit on a really interesting, and you just preempted what I was going to ask you actually about how is search behavior going to change? Because this is what I'm interested in. You know, as AI is spreading across many different channels, it's becoming more integrated in your mobile phone. So probably less and less people are actually going to go to Google and actively search like they used to do. So how do you think search behavior might change?
Yeah, and even broader, like, what is a search, right? If I ask my smart home to go buy me some more milk because I've run out, and it has to decide which brand it goes and buys it for, there's a search there, right? And it's going to pick one based on a whole bunch of user signals. So if I want to, as a brand marketer, influence my supermarket being chosen, what are the strategies and tactics I have? I think there's, and again, that's going to come back to brand building and preference and awareness and being involved in people's lifestyles and being a trusted advisor, all of the good stuff that we've known since the 1950s and just stopped doing because it was convenient to ignore that and just shout at people at scale on the internet. I think there's a return to that. I think there are so many other places that people will search as well now. The TikToks, the ChatGPTs, the Apples increasingly. This is not Google's ecosystem anymore. I've seen a whole bunch of research recently about Gen Z have stopped saying to Google as a verb, which is really exciting, right? They just search it up and they use the right search engine for and the right vertical for the kinds of things they want. And increasingly, those are segmented by format type and by behavior. So you do not go on TikTok to research and buy a new sofa, but you might discover new ideas and get in. You don't go to Instagram to go and buy car insurance. Like, there are distinct formats and funnels and verticals. I think we will need to choose our battles. We're going to need to work out what resource we have and go, actually, it makes much more sense for me to be doing a serialized video thing on YouTube than it does to be trying to rank first for this informational keyword. We will have to pick our battles, and a lot of that is going to be understanding, again, when audiences, beyond just our user base, beyond our customers, but entire audiences, when they are articulating their problems, where are they? What are they seeing? What are they doing? What type of content do they want? What do they read? Who do they listen to? What podcasts do they follow? All the kind of good things that SparkToro does, for example. I think that kind of thinking is going to be much more relevant, trying to influence people and be where they are. I think the other thing you can do that nobody really looks at is capitalize on where you're already winning. If you do rank first or appear highly in ChatGPT or whatever dimensions we're going to look at, rather than going and fighting elsewhere, do above the line marketing to increase people's propensity to search, right? That if you rank first for your brand and you're getting loads of traffic, you can probably get a better ROI from putting up some billboards that increase the number of people who search than writing more content to try and rank first on other keywords. So there's this whole kind of, a lot of this just boils down to actually do actual marketing and go back to basics.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I completely agree with you there that it is now about marketing. It's not just SEO. I think we are becoming, looking at the SEO is fracturing across many different channels. and SEOs are now having to get much more creative working across channels, whereas before it was very siloed for quite some time.
Yeah.
We are just getting to the end now, but I just wanted to ask you, is there anything else that you haven't mentioned that you think, well, that you're doing to adapt how search is changing, apart from what we've just discussed?
I'm using ChatGPT and other tools, obviously, and trying to retrain myself to think, to anticipate this change in behavior, exactly the kind of stuff you point out, that the propensity of people to go and type something into a search box is going to decline. And I find myself unlocking this ability to ask more complex questions. Things like, we got a dog last year. Don't know what she is. That's good. And I was thinking we should go out and get some Sunday lunch somewhere. It's a lovely day. I want somewhere within a 30-minute drive that has a good reputation, that is currently open, that has a car park and is dog friendly, and like 5 other criteria. And I spent half an hour in Google Maps going, okay, maybe this one, move the map a bit, refresh the search, check the reviews of this one. Oh, what's this? Does this mention dogs? Oh, I'm not sure. Check the FAQ. Oh, this is faffy. ChatGPT, articulate the query, and it goes, try this one, this one, this one. 2 of which I'd already had on my shortlist, and the other one it recommended I'd missed entirely because I'd not scored the map 2 pixels enough. And like increasingly, I see this is a much better experience. It's still a search. There's still an opportunity as a marketer for me to influence that. So much of what that will involve is actually having a good product market fit and having that information available and accessible, and making sure that my website isn't out of date and that my FAQ page does explicitly mention whether I'm dog friendly or not. So I'm trying to train myself to behave in that way and to open up these tools, and to not just go, I'm an SEO, I type stuff into Google, because that's not how people behave. I also rely heavily on Sam, who's just left the room, because I'm not on TikTok. I think I'm slightly too old. But Sam's deeply into that world and understands a whole bunch about how do people search and behave. So yeah, we got dog a year ago. I think we must have spent, but I don't even know, a fortune on stuff for the dog. We've never been to Amazon, we've never been to Google, but she's discovered brands and products, built preferences, compared, contrasted, explored, and then we've built brand preference and bought products through that research. And we've changed them out, we've iterated and then produced content back. Like, there have been whole transaction cycles and the discovery of an entirely new category that bypassed Google completely. So really having to think, outside of just keywords and search boxes, and understand that so much of this now is down to the importance of brand discovery and building preference. And no SEO is optimizing for that. We're all picking the commercial keywords at the bottom of the funnel and hoping we rank first. Nobody is going, you know what, when people who don't really know what they want are starting out on complex journeys, can we help them? Can we produce content that is authentically and legitimately useful, that answers their questions, that isn't just a shill to fill out a contact form or buy a trial product, etc.? Like, that's where we need to be competing, and it's a whole different game.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. I think what's interesting, what you were saying there about when you're doing your research on AIO and you're looking, say, for example, for the dog and, are they dog friendly? I think it makes it even more important now to be preempting what those really important parts, knowing your consumer and knowing actually what the important metrics are to them, ties in with entities as well, and making sure that you have all your correct mentions around that so that it can be pulled into AI. So,
yeah, for sure.
I see it as really fascinating times. And just when you thought SEO was getting boring, it just reaches a whole new level of complexity that keeps us all
absolutely
up at night. I think it's going to be some really interesting times over the next few years, definitely.
Yeah.
So, Jono, I'm going to say thank you very much, because it's supposed to be just a little short coffee break. I could talk to you for hours about this.
We should
I might now have to call you back and talk for hours, but it's been brilliant speaking to you.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all your insight, Jono.
Thanks.